Huge thank you to CIBC for making We Get It possible. Welcome to the last episode of We Get It for this year. I've been doing these for a while. I've done 35 of these. This episode is going to be shorter. It's going to be a quick recap and a time to say thank you before I and we go on a little summer break. So my name is Karine. I'm the program director with Young Adult Cancer Canada. Today I'm wearing my hair up because I went to the gym and I did not shower since I got back. I have my sunglasses on my head and I have my Cancer Makes Me Yak a t-shirt. I'm in my home office, beautiful, hot, sunny day in St. John's. We will take it. I want to take the time for this episodes to just say a few thank yous. If you are watching this for the first time, hey, never too late. We Get It is a series of episodes where we and Siri just tried to talk to me just now. I don't know if you're, oh, you see, just because I said series, that's really funny. Anyway, uh, I've had 35 episodes where I spent half an hour, sometimes a little more, interviewing amazing people. We've had young adult cancer survivors from our community. We've had healthcare professionals, supporters, a lot of really meaningful conversations. There were times this year where things were busy, but you know what? The reality is, and the truth is, the time I spent with the guests we've had was so meaningful to me. So I want to say a huge thank you. If you've missed on some of the episodes, you are going to get to watch them if you want or listen to them this summer. We're going to do a bunch of reruns over the summer while we plan for the upcoming fall season and take a little break because, I don't want you to get tired of this. I'm going to do a run through, so be patient with me, of all the episodes we've done since the beginning. So hopefully this makes you curious to go check some of those out. You can find all of them on our YouTube channel. And I'm not lying. I know I said that tons of times. It's the truth. We're transferring things on Apple Podcast. So we are going to be having all our episodes are going to go through on a podcast so that you can catch them there if while you're taking a walk, you want to listen. So what happened this year? 35? Oh my God. Episode 1 was really Jeff and I introducing We Get It and talking about Yak and how Yak's got your back and how we work towards that all the time, towards improvement in wanting to be there for the young adult cancer community. Then I had Debbie Bastian, amazing nurse, full of passion. And she came and spoke with me about being immunocompromised in this very intense COVID era that back then, which was really like in the fall of last year, was quite intense, if we remember. So for those of you watching this in non-pandemic time, the world went through a pandemic, by the way. So Debbie came and we talked about what is it? What is being immunocompromised? How am I? How can I find that out? She spent the time talking about this with me. And it was great. Then I had Maya, Chris, Morgan, 3 incredible yakkers came, and together we talked about community. What does it mean to be in a young adult community? How does that help? And where are they? What is their story? So they shared, they were super generous with me. I had Sharon Bray, that we all love, who came and spoke about the power of writing and how healing and powerful writing can be. Melina Ladouceur, who is amazing. She is a cancer coach from the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation. And Melina came and together we spent an episode talking about cancer fatigue. It's a thing. It's a real fucking thing. So Melina spoke about it and gave some tools and ways to deal with that. My beautiful friend Genevieve Stonebridge, who works with Inspire Health. She's a counselor at Inspire Health in Victoria. Genevieve came a couple of times this season. The first time together, we talked about self-compassion. So if you've missed that episode, I encourage you to watch it. Then Zoe Ho, incredible, beautiful, talented yacker, came on the episode. We met practically on a We Get It episode, me and her, and just it clicked. We fell in love a little bit. And Zoe talked about reintegration, creativity, following her art and her heart. So pun intended. So she shared her story. We had a little silly, funny Yak staff Christmas thing, but then when we came back into business, Fiona Schulte, a researcher and friend of Yak who worked with Yak Prime Study, met with Danny. Danny Taylor did a couple of episodes, and she met them together. They talked about quality of life and the Yak Prime data around quality of life. What is it? How does that work? And that was super interesting, if you ask me. We had Ashley Morine, another amazing yacker. And Ashley, who's now she's living in Australia. She moved together. We talked about chasing your dreams. And you know what? Even in the midst of cancer and all the shit that comes with that, you can figure out maybe big, little, small dreams that you can chase. And so she shares with me about that. Peter and Bonnie Loom, long time yackers, they came on the show and together we talked about connecting over 40 because they're both over 40 years old, still connected in the community. What does that mean for them? Where are they within the connection to community? Bonnie Lang, beautiful Bonnie, came and together we talked about movement, exercise in the winter, because when we met, it was not summer like it is now, it was winter. And Bonnie gave a bunch of short, small little exercise program that people could do at home, even if you have very little equipment. She made sure that this was possible for you. So it's a great episode. Jackie Bender, Anika Petrella, and Paul Silvestri joined me on an episode to talk about where are the men and everybody who's identifying as male, where are they in the research world, and how and what could we do to actually capture a little bit more of their stories, because there's not a whole lot of male and people identifying as male in research. So we talked about that together. Then I had Genevieve Stonebridge, who came back because we love each other and she's amazing. So Genevieve came, and this time we talked together about creativity for well-being. Denis and I, like we talked about his book and we talked about identity and cancer, which was great. So Denis shared his story and talked about what identity means to him. Megan McInnes came on the show. She is with Queering and Cancer. And together we talked about LGBTQ plus community, healthcare, and some of the work Queering Cancer is doing, which is an amazing site that you should visit if you haven't. Then I had Nadia Prendo, wonderful therapist. And together, Nadia and I talked about the importance of finding someone, a therapist, counselor, someone who can offer you support in your own language. Because as we know, I'm Francophone. When I saw a therapist and I had to think of all my emotions in English, as bilingual as I was, that was hard. So Nadia and I talked about that. Almost more than halfway done. Are you still listening? If you are, thank you. Marissa Thomas from For the Breast of Us joined me on the show, and together we talked about For the Breast of Us. We talked about some of the movement and the efforts they've been doing to put in the forefront the experiences, the lived experiences of people of color, Black people in the US. That's where For the Breast of Us is, but I think it's applicable to anyone, as we know. So me and Marissa had a chat about that. Tom Masterson, my friend Tom, who's developed this amazing app, Blue, for caregivers and anyone really who wants to build a network of support around them. Tom and I came and we talked about being a caregiver of someone living with cancer, and of course, about the amazing app he created. Gabrielle and Gabrielle Fecto, Alex Mandarino joined me, and we talked about the balls of shit. They shared with me their theory. What is it? The book that they wrote, and we had fun. Joe Bakmutsky. Joe loved Joe, and he's a cancer survivor, an amazing man. And he and I talked about hope and where hope stands in the midst of cancer. Then I had Ashley and Shiva, who came on the show and talked about accessibility in cancer and actually how not accessible our healthcare system is for anyone living with a disability. So we had this super powerful conversation that even went into people of color. So for them, they experience both someone living with a disability, going through cancer, and a partner who was a person of color, and then going through our healthcare system. Came with a few bumps, to say the least. Great episode. Bonnie Elliott, a wonderful Bonnie Elliott. She's a therapist, she's a counselor, she does all kinds of things. And together, Bonnie and I talked about narrative therapy and how important it is to share our story and how healing it can be and how to figure the shit out. Great conversation with Bonnie. Then we did a few episodes with Prime, Yak Prime Study. So a first episode was with Kai. Kai came and together we talked about psychological distress. What does that mean? He shared a little bit about his story. We shared a little bit about the Prime data. We had Amber Pywell come and talked about being an end of life doula. What is that? What does that do? And how does that work? Then continued with some Prime Study episodes. I had Shauna with me, joining me, and together we talked about fear of cancer recurrence. Marley joined me a little the following week, and together we had a chat about body image and cancer in young adults. It's a thing. Blair came over one of the shows, and together Blair and I talked about quality of life in relation to the Yak Prime study and in relation to his own cancer story, which was great. So we're almost done, people. The last few episodes that we had the chance to do this year, Christine Skakum, a longtime friend of Yak, supporter of her sister for years, nurse, me and her together talked about the heavy burden that COVID and the pandemic has put on healthcare providers, caregivers, and really everyone in general. But we had a little bit of a focus on our healthcare providers. Nicole Fury Dunn, and Chris Dunn, two amazing yackers. They came on the show, and together we talked about planning a family and more specifically, their adoption process through someone living with cancer and dealing with cancer, getting treatment, and then taking the steps forward with adoption. So they shared very generously about their journey. Knight's Cabin came over. So Katie Savalrud, who was at the time, she was the executive director. Someone changed, but Katie came. And together we talked about the benefits of nature, how healing it can be, and their programs walk it out, and some of the stuff Knight's Cabin does. So it was a really neat show. Krista C came and joined me, and together, Krista's an incredible yacker in our community, and together we talked about finding your path to recovery, your path, whatever that means. So Krista shared hers and what has worked for her, but hopefully this inspired those who watched to find theirs. Lynn Poirier LaRusso, I had a blast talking with Lynn. Lynn works with kids kicking cancer. We talked about martial art. We talked about the power of martial art when it comes to cancer. And then she taught us this really neat breathing technique. We did some breath work together to help reduce stress. Loved my chat with Lynn. And finally, the last two episodes of our season were with Jason, another crazy amazing yacker. And Jay came on the show, and we split the show in two parts because we talked for too long. Me and him were talking for probably almost 2 hours. So first part of Jay's episode, the first part is his story. So he shares what it meant to get diagnosed with COVID, erase that, cancer during COVID. It's time for me to take a break, right? And he shared being newly diagnosed and newly connected to the Yak community, what this meant, how it's helped him, and all his kind of trajectory through before cancer into the diagnosis. It was a great chat. And this conversation with me and Jay was followed by talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, because he was diagnosed with that, not in relation to cancer prior, but he has learned a lot through his initial post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis, and how what he's learned has helped him cope with the trauma that is cancer. So that was another really neat chat. This was our season. If you've listened to all of this, I'm like, oh my God, thank you. It was great. I'm extremely grateful for all of our guests. I am looking forward to us creating and having more stories, more people that hopefully are going to be useful and helpful to you. And if any of what I just said in the last whatever, how many minutes interests you, you can catch all of those episodes on our YouTube channel. They will go on rerun over the summer on live on YouTube, on Facebook every Monday at 7 p.m. And like I said, Apple Podcast is also happening. So keep checking out our website, youngadultcancer.ca. I'm going to take a break. I want to say thank you. I wish all of you a wonderful summer. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the fall. Massive thank you. Have a great time.